Jesse Cornett has been down this road before. He ran for Portland City Council in 2010, and before that, he got 48% of the vote in the 2006 Democratic primary against then State Senator Rod Monroe. Today, Cornett is a board member of the nonprofit anti-addiction group Oregon Recovers. He's also been a policy advisor in the Secretary of State's office and the personal assistant to Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders during Sanders' run for the presidency in 2020. Jesse Cornett, welcome to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thank you for having me.
Your work with Oregon Recovers gives you a unique perspective on some of the problems that especially the downtown core of Portland is experiencing. What can you bring to the table at City Hall given that experience?
I've used my experiences over the last 3.5 years with Oregon Recovers to really inform myself not only on Measure 110, but addiction and recovery issues generally. And that includes not as part of the official delegation, but visiting Portugal and learning the experience there. And I have deeply informed myself on the issue. And I think as a leader on City Council, I'm going to bring a lot of information on how the city can respond to some of the issues that we're facing. I think a primary impediment to the implementation of Measure 110 has been lax law enforcement. It seems like amongst the ranks, they don't really like it, and they don't think the tickets are going to do any good, so they just don't issue them. And that has really stymied the efforts that the measure sponsors intended. I was not somebody that initially supported it. I did not vote for it. And I do not think we've given it a chance to succeed because of that.
Well, the legislature is going to be dealing with that. In fact, there was a committee that held a meeting earlier this week from when this interview airs, where they're taking a look at whether there should be changes, whether there should be tweaks, what we should do with Measure 110. What are your thoughts on where we should go from here on 110?
Sure. I was there, and let me just say this problem was created by the ballot. I do not think it's going to be solved by the ballot. We elect a legislature to solve our state's most tricky issues. This is something that they must step up and they must act. They must do something during the next legislative session. I myself believe that legislation should require law enforcement officers to issue citations. I'm open to the concept of an escalating penalty where if you do this 3 times or 5 times, whatever it is, you're going to have an increased penalty over what you have now. Much like a speeding ticket, you get 2 or 3 or 4 speeding tickets. Not only is your insurance going to go up, sooner or later we're going to take your license away. We can't take your license away when it comes to Measure 110, but we have to create something that increases the penalties. And the Portland police seem to be unaware that they should be confiscating the street drugs when they encounter them, and they absolutely should, and that should be required as well.
What about the backside of this in terms of treatment for people who do have drug addiction problems? Do we have enough facilities? Are we creating enough facilities in order to deal with that part of the problem?
Absolutely not. Portland has not had a sobering center for years. We do not have enough detox beds, and we don't have enough rehab beds in our state as well. I've worked closely with a for-profit rehab facility. These folks are charging tens of thousands of dollars a month for a bed, and dozens of beds sit empty for one reason for them, and this is what's plaguing every aspect of recovery, which is a workforce shortage.
All right, so that's something that you expect the legislature to deal with?
Well, we've been hoping they would over the past several years, and other than small bonuses perhaps for workforce, they've not emphasized that. With Measure 110, we have an incredible amount of money, and we have an incredible opportunity to bolster what this state offers for addiction and recovery services. But an audit that came out that was presented on during that same hearing this week highlighted how that money is not being programmed effectively, and a big part of the reason is the lack of a qualified workforce.
You're running in the new Portland District 3 under this new form of city government that we're going to. District 3 is essentially inner southeast Portland. So are there issues particular to that part of the city that you want to address if you get into City Hall?
I believe the issues that plague inner southeast Portland plague all of the city, and I am looking forward to representing a district, and I am positive there'll be opportunities to highlight things very specifically within that, making sure we're housing things there and facilities there. Central East Side, if you go down there, you see the same issues you see downtown, but they don't quite get the attention that downtown does. So it's not unique to the district, it's shifting focus to the district.
What do you think about the charter changes? And And how do you think this will affect how the city is run?
I supported charter change at the time because I said doing nothing is no longer okay. The system of government was not working for Portland. It is not working for Portland, and we had to do something, try something different. And we could get into the minutia, this versus that, but what we're doing is we're shifting our government into a more traditional form of government, and I think that's going to be healthy for Portlanders. To boot, the city's decision to go with ranked choice voting combined with multi-member districts has already led to tremendous collaboration between candidates within and among the districts. And I think those are relationships that are being built now that are going to help serve Portlanders for decades to come because of the choices to do it like this.
Portlanders are fed up with the open drugs on the street, the crisis that we just talked about with Measure 110. Do you think that we're moving in the right direction in terms of the electorate's thinking about how we deal with what's happening on the street? Because a lot of people are fed up with it, and you see it everywhere.
I'm not sure that I have a good gauge on the electorate's thinking on this particular issue, but I do believe I'm an average Portlander. I am frustrated in seeing what's happening with our city, but I am more frustrated by the lack of action by our elected leaders, and that's why I'm running.
Talk about your work with Bernie Sanders. How does that influence your politics today?
I spent 6 months tied to the hip with Bernie. If he was outside of his hotel room or a house for the last 6 months of the campaign, and sometimes in those places, I was fortunate to be one of 4 people, including Bernie Sanders and his wife, when he acknowledged he was no longer going to continue his race. That was a powerful place for me to be. I went with him to the Homestead Child Detention Center, where as a nation we caged kids. I traveled with him to Canada, where we bought life-saving diabetes medication at cents on the dollar for patients. And what I saw in those 6 months, and even predating those 6 months, were somebody that was an unapologetic advocate for those in our community that need it the most. It was a masterclass in standing up for them, and that's what I learned in that era, and that's what I'm going to do as a leader.
And does his political philosophy coincide with yours today?
I would say largely. If you look at his specific politics, he's a left-leaning democratic socialist. There are areas where even the hippies in Burlington don't like his policies because they think it's not left enough. His politics are hard to pin down. My politics are hard to pin down at times as well.
Jesse Cornett, thank you so much for being on Eye on Northwest Politics.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.